There are people who hear, "Let's go out tonight," and immediately feel tired, not because they hate people, not because they're antisocial, not because they don't know how to be around others. What exhausts them is not the plan itself. It's everything that comes with it. Getting ready, leaving the house, being on. The small talk, the polite smile, the feeling that once they step outside, they no longer fully belong to themselves. And for some people, staying home is not laziness. It feels like relief, like the one place where nothing is pulling at them. What's interesting is that this way of being often runs much deeper than people think. Today, we're exploring the psychology of people who never want to leave the house, why home feels so different to them, and why this does not always mean something is wrong. This is important to clarify, because people often misunderstand what they're seeing. This is not necessarily agoraphobia, a clinical fear of leaving safe spaces. It is not automatically depression keeping someone cut off from life, and it is not always social anxiety either. Sometimes, it is something much quieter than that. Some people simply feel more regulated at home, more at ease, more like themselves. The noise is lower, the demands are lower, the pace fits them better. At home, they do not have to adjust as much. They do not have to absorb as much. They do not have to carry the constant low-level weight of being available to the outside world. Yes, high introversion can be part of it. So can autonomy. So can a low appetite for overstimulation. But those traits are only the surface. Preferring home is not the same as being incapable of life. In many cases, it is not dysfunction at all. It is an orientation, a real psychological preference for an environment that feels calmer, safer, and more honest. But traits alone do not explain the deeper part. They do not explain what some people learned from solitude very early in life, or why home became, for them, the one place where they never had to perform. For many people, this begins much earlier than anyone realizes. Imagine a child coming home from school in the late afternoon. They open the front door, step inside, and no one is there. No one asks how their day was. No one asks if anything happened at school. No one says, "Hey, you're home." There is only the sound of the refrigerator humming, maybe a television left on somewhere in the house, or sometimes just the kind of silence that seems to settle into every room. So they put their backpack down, they make themselves something to eat. They stand in the kitchen for a moment, not waiting for anyone, because no one is about to walk in and tell them what happens next. The afternoon belongs to them now, and little by little, they learn what to do with that. They learn how to fill time on their own, how to create their own routines, how to move through feelings without being guided through them, how to make a private world feel full enough. And over time, that begins to shape them. Because for a child like that, being alone does not always mean loneliness. Sometimes it means quiet, sometimes it means relief. No questions, no interruptions, no one else's mood entering the room. No need to explain why they are tired, why they are quiet, or why they want to be left alone for a while. They do not just get used to being alone. They learn how to build an inner life there. And once that happens, solitude starts to mean something different. It is no longer just the absence of people. It becomes the absence of pressure, the absence of performance, the absence of being pulled into someone else's emotional world before they have even settled into their own. Now, not every child who grows up like this becomes someone who prefers staying home. Of course not. But for many people, this is where the pattern quietly begins. This is where the mind starts linking certain things together very early. Home means relief. Solitude means safety. Self-reliance means identity. And this is what people often misunderstand most. Experiences like this do not always create weakness. They do not always create fear. Sometimes they create someone who becomes unusually good at needing very little from the outside world. And that is why many of these people do not look lonely. They look self-contained. And when someone grows up that way, the need for home does not stay emotional for long. It becomes practical, because going out means variables. Traffic, delays, noise, crowds, plans that take longer than expected. The quick stop that turns into an hour. The dinner that gets louder as the night goes on. the simple outing that somehow asks for more energy than it seemed to at first. Home is different. At home, they can control the light, the sound, the temperature, the clothes on their body, the moment they answer a text, the moment they go quiet. They can choose when to engage, when to step back, when to let the world in, and when to shut it out. And for someone who grew up around unpredictability, that kind of control does not feel petty. It feels calming. It feels like being able to settle into yourself. Because outside, too many things can shift at once. At home, they usually don't. So what other people call staying in too much often feels very different from the inside. It feels like keeping yourself from getting overloaded. It feels like managing your energy before it starts slipping away. That is why home can become more than a preference. For some people, it becomes a form of self-regulation. And this is where many adults start recognizing themselves very clearly. Because what drains them is often not the interaction itself. It is everything wrapped around it. The elevator small talk before work. The conversation in the office kitchen when you were only trying to get coffee. The neighbor who catches you by the mailbox and turns a 2-second moment into 5 minutes. The group brunch that keeps stretching past the point where you were done an hour ago. The family gathering where you have to seem relaxed, interested, and in a good mood the whole time. The familiar line at the end of the night, "We should do this again sometime," when everyone quietly knows it probably will not happen. None of these things seem that serious on their own, but together they ask for something very specific. You have to adjust your face, adjust your tone, adjust your energy, adjust how warm you sound, adjust how interested you look, adjust your reactions so no one reads you as cold, distant, awkward, or strange. And after a while, that becomes exhausting. What drains them is not contact. It is the constant editing of the self. Many people who strongly prefer staying home have a very low tolerance for inauthenticity. They notice very quickly when a conversation is mostly ritual, when a question is being asked out of habit, not real curiosity. When enthusiasm is expected, even if no one really feels it. And the more clearly they see that performance, the more tiring it becomes to join in. That does not mean they hate people, and it does not mean they do not want connection. It means they are worn down by forms of connection that require them to move away from themselves in order to participate. Home is where they no longer have to rehearse being acceptable, and this is where people often get it wrong. From the outside, these people can seem cold, detached, hard to reach, as if they are always pulling back from life. But very often, they are not pulling back from life itself. They are pulling back from what life starts to require from them once other people enter the room. Not just their time, not just their energy, but their face, their tone, their openness, their willingness to keep giving the right emotional response. They do not always withdraw because they feel too little. Sometimes they withdraw because the world keeps asking them to feel on command, to smile when they are tired, to sound engaged when they are already drained, to stay emotionally available long after they have stopped feeling real. So for many of them, home is not where they go to hide from life. It is where they go to stop abandoning themselves. And this is where privacy begins to matter in a much deeper way. Not privacy in the dramatic sense, not secrecy, not shutting the world out completely, something quieter than that. For many people like this, privacy means not wanting to feel available all the time. It means not wanting their inner life to be touched so easily. It means wanting part of the day to remain fully theirs, without having to respond, explain, update, or let someone in. They do not want to answer the moment their phone lights up. They do not want to explain what they are doing, why they stayed home, or why they did not come. They do not feel the need to post every experience while it is happening. They do not want every moment turned into something visible. And for some people, being seen too much does not feel connecting. It feels exposing. For them, privacy is not about having something to hide. It is about not wanting to feel constantly reachable, as if some part of them is always within someone else's reach, always interruptible, always a little less their own. That is why home can feel so protective, not only because it is quiet, but because it gives them something harder to find than silence. It gives them boundaries. They do not need witnesses to know they existed that day. They do not need an audience to believe their life is real, and they do not need constant contact to stay connected to themselves. And this is where people often make another mistake. They assume someone like this is struggling with life, that they stay home because they cannot handle the outside world. But very often, the opposite is true. Many of these people are highly capable. They know how to work remotely, how to order what they need, how to use delivery instead of wasting energy in crowded stores, how to handle their banking, their errands, their responsibilities without turning every task into a draining experience. They often keep their social circle small, but chosen carefully, and they plan their lives in ways that reduce friction before it starts. This is not helplessness. It is selection. They are not failing at life. They are filtering it. What looks like withdrawal from the outside can feel very different from the inside. It can feel like intelligent energy management, like knowing exactly which parts of the world are worth your time, your attention, and your nervous system, and which parts are not. They do not avoid everything because they cannot do it. They avoid certain things because they understand the cost of them very clearly. And once a person has learned to live well, with less noise, less pressure, and less performance, they do not always see a reason to go back. And beneath all of this, there is often one more pattern. Many people like this develop a strong inner sense of what counts as a good day. They know when something felt meaningful to them. They know when they felt calm, fulfilled, or restored. And because of that, they do not always need the outside world to confirm that their life is real or worthwhile. That does not mean they feel nothing. It does not mean they do not care. It means they do not need everything to be witnessed. A quiet evening can be enough. A meal alone can be enough. A few pages of a good book can be enough. A silent room, a settled mind, a day with no performance in it for some people, that is not emptiness. That is fullness. A life does not become more real because more people saw it. And once someone has learned that, something changes. They stop needing so much visible proof. They stop needing every meaningful moment to be shared, posted, or reflected back to them by other people. The experience itself is enough. The peace inside it is enough. Some people stopped chasing visible proof the moment private peace started to feel sufficient. And when your sense of worth has become that internal, being seen by other people is no longer what makes you feel alive. It is no longer the thing that tells you that your day mattered. And that matters now more than ever, because we live in a culture that keeps pushing the same message. Go out, be visible, meet more people, document everything, prove you're living. But not everyone needs that kind of life in order to feel alive. Some people are selectively social. Some people really do find quiet more nourishing than excitement. Some people are not resisting life at all. They are only resisting a pace of life that leaves them feeling worn down, edited, and far away from themselves. They are not broken. They are not automatically missing out. And they are not waiting for their real life to begin later. For many of them, this is already the life they chose. A quieter one, a more private one, a more honest one. They are not disappearing from life. They are refusing to outsource their peace. And that may be the most misunderstood thing about them. They are not waiting to start living. This is what chosen life already looks like. If this felt familiar, then maybe this channel is your kind of place. A kind of shelter for the parts of you the outside world does not always understand. So tell us in the comments, are you like this? Or do you love someone who is? What do people misunderstand most about people like this? And if you come here for these kinds of conversations, subscribe to Psyche Shelter, because sometimes understanding yourself begins with finally hearing your inner life described the right way. And if this topic stayed with you, the next video may help too, especially if you've ever wondered why ordinary socializing can feel far more exhausting than it looks.